Hi everyone, welcome to Plot Twist, the channel where we talk about everything reading, writing, and plot. I have a problem. A big problem. So, a couple weeks ago, Jesse from Bartell's Bookshelf, he was having a rough January, as he said in his latest video. So, we and another friend, Laura, she's shown up on the videos a couple of times, we went out and we did what we do best, which is book shopping. And that said, this is going to be a haul video, so I will talk about each of these books that I got in our last haul. This is not including the one that Jesse had just posted, because I only got the one book from that. That was the surprise book, which will be on his channel, or is on his channel, I should say. So if you're interested in what book I got, go ahead and head over to Bartell's Bookshelf and check it out there. So, let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? So the first one I got was Airborne by Kenneth Opel. For those who don't know, Kenneth Opel wrote the Silverwing series. It's a kid's book about a bat named Shade. Kenneth Opel also had, there was a TV show based on Silverwing, if anybody remembers that. It was a very short-lived TV show. It somewhat ended on a cliffhanger and was just never picked up again, unfortunately. But it is a fun show, if anybody remembers it. If not, go ahead and check it out. I believe it's free on YouTube as of right now. Could be wrong, though. YouTube. So Airborne is about Matt Cruz has the life he has always dreamed of as a cabin boy on the Aurora. I can't say that word. A luxury passenger airship that sails hundreds of feet above the ocean. Then one night he meets a dying balloonist who speaks of beautiful creatures drifting through the skies who are completely real and utterly mysterious. So it follows a cabin boy on an airship. So nice, like, steampunky vibes, which is really cool. So I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. I like the Silverwing trilogy. I like Darkwing a lot. So I like Kenneth Opel's writing. He's got a very almost poetic style, at least with his young adult stuff. I don't know what this technically falls under. It might be young adult. I'm not sure, but it is a fantasy. Anyway, so I'm really interested in seeing where that goes. That's kind of new in terms of my journey with Kenneth Opel. I don't know which one came first, if it was Silverwing or Airborne. Actually, I might have a list of his books here. No, okay, so I didn't have a list, unfortunately. Anyway, so that was book one. Book two is The Peculiarities by David Liss. I love this cover. That was what made me pick it up. Was this cover. This is the author of A Conspiracy of Paper, if anybody has read that. But yeah, it was an interesting find. So the back of the book says, all of his life, 23-year-old Thomas Thresher, all of his life, Thomas Thresher has been free of obligation and responsibility. Now his older brother Walter has trapped him in a tedious clerical job at the family bank in London and is forcing Thomas into an arranged marriage. But Thomas has more serious problems. There are irregularities at the bank he cannot explain. His childhood friend has turned up dead. Worst of all, leaves have begun sprouting on Thomas's skin. Perhaps it is all the fault of the long-rumored peculiarities lurking in London's famous grey fog. Proper society scoffs at the notion of magic, even as it seeps into their buildings, transfiguring the rich and poor alike. If Thomas is going to save the family business and stop turning into a tree, he'll need help from some rather improper companions, the members of London's semi-secret occult society, including a strange fellow named Aleister Crowley. So it sounds really fun. I did read the first couple of paragraphs, as I usually do, just to say hi to the books, as I normally do. Unfortunately for me, it is written in present tense. Anybody who knows me, I struggle with present tense quite a bit. It's not a bad way to write a book. I'm not saying it's awful. It certainly has its place. I think there are a few books that require present tense. For example, a really popular book now, They Both Die at the End. That's a story that needs to be in present tense. So it obviously has its place. Present tense always breaks me out of the story. I don't know why. The only way I can describe it is it tells my brain that it's happening right now, and especially in a fantasy setting, my brain's like, well, no, it can't be happening right now because magic doesn't exist. Which makes no sense at all. But it's just how my brain works. It doesn't like it. But yeah, so I'm really interested in seeing where this goes. I have a weird fascination / love with anything to do with underground magic, especially in London for some reason. I'm not sure why. So yeah, I have a real deep fascination with that. So it's just something that I pick up, and that's one way to get me to pick up a book real fast. So the next book I have is, what is this? Hunted Past Reason by Richard Matheson. This is the author of I Am Legend, if anybody has read that. Very, very famous author. Has wrote a bunch of stuff. Most famously I Am Legend. And What Dreams May Come, if anybody has seen that with Robin Williams. Really strange movie. Very odd. It's not for everybody. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I like the imagery, but I found it really boring. Anyway, Hunted Past Reason is, let's see here, oh, it's on the inside of the cover. It's supposed to be just an ordinary camping trip. Two old acquaintances hiking through the wilderness toward a remote cabin in the woods of Northern California. I live in Northern California, so that's fun and terrifying at the same time. So I'm interested to see if I recognize any places. I have been all up and down California's coast. I have traveled a lot of California. It's a beautiful state. It has one of the, it has the most diverse fauna and flora of any other state. So anyway, Bob Hansen, a middle-aged family man and author, isn't anticipating anything worse than sore muscles and maybe a few chilly nights. But the enforced isolation of the hike soon exposes long-hidden rivalries and resentments between Bob and his guide through the forest, a fading TV actor whom Bob has known for several years. The deeper they get into the primeval wilderness, and the farther from civilization, the greater the tension between the two men becomes. Hi, Dritz. Can you get down, please? Until the simmering hostility erupts into a terrifying life-or-death struggle for survival. Two men enter the woods, but only one may emerge alive. So that is Hunted Past Reason. I am really excited about getting into this. I'm happy that this is going to be my first Richard Matheson. I thought about reading I Am Legend, because it's very famous, but zombies / vampire / post-apocalyptic survival isn't necessarily my favorite thing. I know the ending to I Am Legend, I know how it ends, but I typically prefer my zombie-like monsters, my Walking Dead monsters, to be intelligent. So I want there to be more a risk there, I suppose. But yeah, so I think this is going to catch my attention better. So if I want to give this author an honest chance, I want something that I'm going to be more interested in. So I'm really excited to see how this goes for me. Oh, chonky boy. Alright, so this one is The Dark is Rising by Suzanne Cooper. This is the complete sequence, so this is a bind-up of a series, it looks like. So this is a bind-up of Oversea Under Stone, The Dark is Rising, Green Witch, The Grey King, and Silver on the Tree. And to give you an idea of how old this book is, I found this. That's a Borders bookmark, if anybody remembers Borders. But yes, so that gives me an idea of how old this is. I believe this was these stories were originally published in the mid-60s to late 70s, I believe is how long that went about. So Will Stanton's ordinary life is shattered with the dreadful revelation that the Dark, the source of all evil, is rising in his last and greatest bid to control the world. He finds that he is no ordinary boy, but the last born of the Old Ones, immortals dedicated to keeping mankind free from the dark. Soon Will is swept up in the great battle, along with his ageless master, Merriman. The 3 Drew children, who are mortal but have their own vital part to play, and a strange albino boy named Bran. These 6 fight fear and death in a quest through time and space interwoven with the most ancient myths of the islands of Britain, until at last Will and Bran find the weapon that will ultimately vanquish the dark. So I like that kind of stuff. I like, Darkness Rising and people having to save it. I like unusual characters. I've mentioned this before in a video. I like it when the typical outcast, so we have an albino person here. I'm really interested to see how that is portrayed in this book, because I know albino people, they're very rare in terms of society. That said, though, I know that they have their own struggles, especially with like sunlight and fatigue. Eyesight is really bad, or can be bad. So I'm really interested to see how Bran overcomes that. I almost stopped when the line comes up, he finds that he is no ordinary boy. That is a really quick way for me to not read your book. When it comes to books, especially with fantasy and like young adult things, I obviously know that they're not ordinary, especially when it comes to women. If your book at any point says Ashley is no average girl, or Ashley isn't a normal girl or an ordinary girl, I don't look at it. I really don't. And I know that's probably a little mean to say, I'll say, because it's hypocritical. I know that. I totally know that. It's just one of those things where it's like, I know already. I know they're not normal, otherwise you wouldn't be telling the story. But then my eyes decided to lean down to Albino Boy, which caught my interest again. And then, of course, myths. I love myths, especially European myths. Anything to do with mythological beings. And one of my favorite things to do is figure out where the mythology could have come from. What did these people see in the forest or in a river that came up with this idea? So that's always fun for me. So I'm really hoping that goes into that detail. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Oh, so many books. Okay. Alright, the next one I have here is Thieves Magic by Trudy Cannavin? So yeah, this is an interesting one. Sorry. In a world powered by magic, Tyen, T-Y-E-N, a student of archaeology unearths an ancient book, one with a mind of its own. I'm in there already. Ancient book with a mind of its own. All I need. But to continue, this magical artifact has been gathering information for years, including a clue to the disaster I'm just going to call him Tyen. Tyen's world faces. Elsewhere, in a land ruled by priests, Riel has been taught that to use magic is to steal from the angels, yet she has a talent for it, and desperate times may force her to risk the angels' wrath. But not everything is as Tyen and Riel have been raised to believe. Not the nature of magic, and not even the people they trust. So that sounds really interesting. This reminds me, at least the second half of that premise, reminds me a little bit of Soulkeeper by David Dalgesh. I think I'm saying that correctly. Where magic has returned to the world, and everything that they've known about their world is just totally wrong. So I'm really interested in seeing how that works. I'm really interested in seeing how that book comes into play. I'll see if it's actually a character at all. One line in here, though, did get me a little bit. Tyen is essentially grave robbing at the moment. He's looking for artifacts, and he's found something, or he thinks he's found something. Let's see here. As he tried to open it, the wrapping snapped apart, and something inside began to slide out. His pulse quickened as he caught the object, and his heart sank a little. No treasure lay in his hands, just a book. I obviously have problems with that. Like, you have a book, sir. An old book. You have no idea what's in there. You don't know what kind of information is in there, so while the main character seems to be upset that he has found a book in some dead guy's hand, I'm very intrigued. So speaking of steampunk, as I was talking about with Airborne earlier, I got this one, Infernal Devices by K.W. Jeter. From what I understand, this is one of the first steampunk novels. This is not Infernal Devices, not the famous TV show that just came out, also based off of a book series. This is something completely different. Like I said, I believe this is one of the first, if not the first, steampunk novels, or the introduction to steampunk as it is, as we know today anyway. Or at least the author, someone invented it. So I'm really interested in seeing how that goes. I'm a little worried that the writing may be a bit dry, but it's a very short book as well. It's only 303 pages, so hopefully it won't be terribly dry and boring or anything like that. I don't think it will, though. I love steampunk. I love anything to do with that. So we'll see how it goes. When George Dower's father died, he left George his watchmaker's shop, and much more. But George has little talent for watches and other infernal devices. When someone tries to steal an old artifact from the premises, George finds himself embroiled in a mystery of time travel, music, and sexual intrigue. So I'm really interested to see how time travel, music, and sex mesh together over a watch shop. And whatever was stolen from this watch shop. So that's going to be really interesting. I opened this one up as well, just to say hi. It didn't quite catch me right away. It did have very kind of like old London-y vibes to it, which it opens up in old London, so the writing is interesting, but it wasn't like a quick, like, there's a bomb exploding, and I gotta go figure out what the bomb's about. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm really interested in seeing how and where steampunk began. And this is a really nice copy, too. Like, this is obviously a reprint. I got this at the clearance section for, like, $1, so I was, like, really, really excited about that. First published in 1987. Introduction copyright is 2011. Okay, so this book is roughly from 2011. So yeah, definitely a reprint. But yes, very nice. Alright, this one I have some issues with. So this is Elric, the Stealer of Souls. Now, this says The Chronicles of the Last Emperor of Melonbone, however that is, Volume 1. And this is by Michael Moorcock. Fully illustrated by John Picacio, I think is how you said that name. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I was really interested in reading this. So I've had a few people suggest the series to me, and Jesse over at Bartell's Bookshelf highly recommended it to me. He practically just shoved this in my hand, actually, and that's why I have it now. Unfortunately, though, this is not the first book that this character appears in. So, it sounded like it was. The way it talked about it on the back, it sounded like it was the first book. It has Volume 1 on there and all that, but it's actually a different book. So, I had to order the different books. I will get to this eventually, but I want to read... But I want to read the, But I want to read the actual first book first. Alright, so, if anybody who doesn't know about this story, I know very little about it. All I know is that it's about an elf, that has a, vampiric blade, vampiric sword, and he goes on adventures. So when Michael Moorcock began chronicling the adventures of the albino sorcerer Elric, last king of descendant Melonbone, I'm gonna say that, and a sentient vampiric sword Stormbringer, he set out to create a new kind of fantasy adventure, one that broke with tradition and reflected a more up-to-date Sophistication. I know how to word. Sophistication of theme and style. The result was a bold and unique hero, weak in body, subtle in mind, dependent on drugs for the vitality to sustain himself, with great crimes behind him and a greater destiny ahead. A rock and roll anti-hero who would channel all the violent excesses of the 60s and one enduring archetype. So that gives you an idea of who and what Elric is. You know, I was hooked right away on the idea of a drug-dependent anti-hero albino elf. Again, like, that was just so completely new to me. So I'm really interested in that. I can't wait for the book. There's a new reprint that just came out, and I ordered it off of Amazon, so it should be here soon. So I'm really interested in seeing how that goes over. Hopefully I'll be reading that really quickly. Alright, so we got two more going on here. This is Damon's Ink, whatever you want to call that, by Camille Bacon Smith. They're detectives on a mission, and their missions are diabolical. It says, if you've got a case that no one else can solve, turn to Philadelphia-based detective agency Bradley, Ryan, and Davis. They're swift, cunning, capable, and demonic. As Eye of the Demon begins, Marnie Simpson sees an ad with an interesting promise. Cases involving the occult handled with discretion. Her brother Paul has been kidnapped, and the ad was placed on top of the ransom note. Marnie doesn't yet know that Kevin Bradley, aka Bad Dad, of the demon host of Artion, and his partners are the only ones who can save Paul, for he is in the hands of inhuman captors, and they are bent on multi-dimensional, millennia-spanning campaign of conquest. So I'm obviously already interested. There's demon detectives, so that's interesting. So this is a bind-up. The back of the flap continues on to talk about the other books that are in this. So I've always been interested in demons, obviously. I love anything to do with paranormal. I love detectives, especially paranormal detectives. So that is really interesting. I don't mind if the detectives are human or demon or whatever, as long as they're dealing with the paranormal. I don't care. So this is really fun. This cover is really interesting. It's very gothic looking, which I struggle to kind of get an idea of what this cover actually looks like. I've got the vaguest idea of a demon's face right here, and maybe a chest, I think is what this is, or some knees, maybe. The back of the book, I think this is what the cover actually looks like. I think it's just a close-up of this. But I'm not entirely certain because my colorblindness doesn't let me know. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Sherlock Holmes-esque thing, but with demons instead. So yeah, I'm really interested in that. The writing is interesting so far. Yeah, so the first line here is, Bad Dad, Lord of Artion, slipped into his human persona as he put on a charcoal pinstripe suit coat. So yeah, we immediately get demons turning into humans and wearing suits. That's always fun. Yeah, so I'm really interested in seeing how this goes. So the last one I have here is actually probably the pride of the haul. And I say that not because it's any particular book. It's not, I wouldn't call this incredibly famous or anything like that. I've only heard of it recently. But it's the quality of the book, really. So I got this at half price as well. Not only is this signed by the two authors, so you can see that right there, this also comes with a reversible dust jacket, which as soon as I figure out how to properly deal with this, I will most likely be turning it to this dust jacket, because this cover is gorgeous. There's just so much happening. The colors are beautiful. But I love all the little runes and stuff going on in the back there, the glass shattering, wind blowing, obviously. Whatever's going on with that guy down there. He looks very okay with everything that seems to be happening. So this book is obviously called Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. I don't normally get into dual authors. I think sometimes it can be a little messy, but that doesn't mean that they're not bad, or that they're not good, I should say. Oh yes, it also has, this is backwards. I'm smart. It also has some beautiful, beautiful artwork in the back. So we got the same two guys here, and I love these, like, tattoos, I guess he's got going on, of, like, his bone structure, or a bone structure. So that's really cool. Life in the Queen's City isn't easy, especially for a two-bit thief like Rags. I love any book with a thief. And when your name is Rags, that's pretty fun. I like it. When his latest score goes sideways, he's nabbed by Royal Sorcerer Morin the Last, who forces him to steal the 6 pieces of an immeasurably powerful ancient Fey relic. Rags is determined to somehow get away unscathed, until he discovers that the relics Morin is after are actually people. A distractingly handsome Fey prince who has been asleep for centuries. I guess that explains what's going on in the cover there. Okay. A Queensguard deserter with more honor than common sense. A daughter of a disgraced noble family who hits first and asks questions later. A deceptively sweet-natured prince. A member of the underground resistance, neither trusting nor trustworthy, and him, Rags. There's no way they can let Morin enact his dark plans, but 6 misfits against an exceptionally wicked enemy doesn't make for generous odds. Luckily, Rags is not generous. He's smart, and he has a plan that might work. So this is obviously a young adult book. This is also an LGBT book, so the main character, I believe, is gay. I'm going to assume he probably falls in love with one and or both of the men here, or possibly 3. I don't know who the member of the underground is. Anyway, so I do know this is an LGBT book. I had it from the library a long, long time ago. I never got around to reading it, and I had to return it because it was on hold. And so I was really upset about that, and I never did get it back. But then I saw this, and a signed copy with a reversible dust cover was just too good to pass up. So yeah, I would definitely consider this the pride and joy of this haul, just because of the quality and what it contains. I'm really interested in seeing how this goes. I did read a little bit of it as well, as I said, just to say hi. It starts out with Tommen Hale of House Everloyal was going to die before the sun rose. It wasn't as heroic as it sounded. It was a lonely, terrible thing, made worse by a lonely, terrible knowledge weighing on his chest. The secret he'd uncovered. So it starts off with a death, or possibly a death. We'll find out. So that was my book haul for this one. This is probably my last haul for a while, unless I get like a gift card or something like that for my birthday that's coming up in March. I am quickly running out of room. No, I actually do not have any room on a bookshelf or anything. My poor books are now in piles on the floor. Yeah, I have a lot of books. Hopefully, though, I will be getting a better situation for the books soon, which might also mean that this is going to go away. I'm hoping we will eventually have my books all on one shelf behind me and looking pretty and better lighting, and things like that. So yeah, let me know if you have read any of these books. Would suggest any of these books. Which one should I read first? Yeah, just let me know if there's anything about these books that you want to tell me down in the description. Yeah, I guess that's really it for today. So yeah, thank you for stopping by Plot Twist again, and just keep reading. Yeah, that's all I have to say for that. So yeah, thank you again.